Hello crafty friends! I've created this interesting folder, not quite sure what to call it actually, with lots of little goodies inside. This is part of the Boho Summer Collab. If you'd like to see how I created this, and it's really created on the fly, I had no pre-plan on how I was going to create it, and to see all the interesting goodies inside, please stay tuned. The beautiful papers that I'm using today are part of the Bohemian Summer Kit created by Nathalie and Suzanne from LineDotArrow and Junk Journaling for Everyone groups on Facebook. I will put a link to where you can purchase this kit from in the description box below. Just a note, I have not printed out the entire kit. I've just printed out the few pages that I'm going to use for my project, but it is a really huge kit with lots and lots of beautiful pages inside. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have a plan of what I was going to create. I had an idea of some kind of folder that I wanted to make and a very basic idea of how I wanted it to look. So when I'm creating this project, it is the first time I'm doing it. So you'll notice that sometimes I do steps that are later then covered up. That's because I didn't plan it. So come on the journey with me and see how I create without much planning, and see if it works out in the end. I started by choosing two different papers, one for the inside of the folder and one for the outside. I don't have any measurements at this stage, I'm just eyeballing it. At first, I did cut both pieces the same size. I then went back and cut the inner piece slightly smaller, about 1 centimeter difference horizontally and vertically. So when I put the pieces together, you can see the size difference quite clearly. And then I know I want some form of pocket inside this folder so I can put lots of tags and embellishments inside. And I do love working with vellum, so I'm going to create a vellum pocket. I'm going to stitch the vellum with my sewing machine, and because I don't want this stitching to be on the outside of the folder, I'm going to stitch it on the paper before I glue the front and back pieces together. I've used a beautiful turquoise thread to stitch this, as I think turquoise goes really well with the kit and it's quite a boho color. An unnecessary step was sewing all the way around this piece of paper, because I'm actually going to cover the stitching eventually in about 2 minutes. So to stick the front and the back pages together, I'm just using a glue stick and I'm making sure I'm covering it really well. I just make sure that I center this really well. I'm then going to fold over the excess paper. You see now why that stitching was unnecessary all the way around, but this is how we learn. And as I said, I didn't have a plan. Once I have folded this down, I'm going to glue it again with a glue stick. The idea behind this was to have a little bit of the pattern from the front paper on the inside of the folder. I am leaving the long threads intact. I do love my work to have lots of threads everywhere. It's going to be very thready, so I'm not going to trim those off or tuck them in. Just using the ruler to trim off a little bit of each side, as this is slightly larger than the top and bottom pieces, just to try and get that even. And now I'm going to create the folds of my folder. Again, no measuring, I'm just folding, and all I know is that I want the top piece to go halfway across, not all the way across. And then I'll create one more fold in here to create an additional pocket. And because I love sewing on paper so much, I'm running it under my sewing machine. I have sewn all the way around and then down the center folds too. This creates a great sewing aesthetic. The only thing I am going to measure is where I'm going to position my eyelet. I want it in the center, and this will be to attach my closure. I'm adding the eyelet to prevent any tearing, and also I think it finishes it off really nicely. For my tie, I'm going to use a piece of fabric This is actually from an old pillowcase cover. I've just ripped a piece. I'm going to pass that through and tie a knot, which will hold it in place. I'm not quite happy with it just being white, so I'm going to add some color to add some contrast. An easy way and for minimal mess, I'm going to place the fabric in a Ziploc bag, and then I'm going to just spray some ink inside. You can also use watercolor or watered down acrylic paint. I'm just going to spray some of my ink and then some water and smoosh it around in there so the color can get everywhere. I don't mind if the color doesn't cover the entire piece of fabric. I wouldn't mind if it's a little bit patchy. I think that causes a great effect. I've used a dark blue color because I think it goes well with the dark blue flowers on the front cover of my folder. I added some more water because the color was quite concentrated, and not to waste any ink, I'm just pressing some index cards into the excess color, and that we can use for a later project, and then I'm going to lay this down on the side to dry. Now let's add some interest on the inside. I'm going to start with this tag. It's a perfect size, and because both the front and back of the tag are going to be visible the way I'm going to attach it, I'm going to use the Bingo card printable that you see here as the back side. But first, because I want it quite firm, I'm going to stick this onto a piece of cardstock, just using my glue stick. This will make it a bit more sturdy. And there we have a double-sided tag. I'm just going to round the corners. Now I want to attach this so you can turn it like a page. I don't want to tuck it into a pocket. I'm going to use a bit of distress ink to distress the edges of the tag on both sides. My favorite color for distressing the edges is Vintage Photo, but I'm using Walnut in this one as my Vintage Photo has run out. It's a Tim Holtz distress ink. I want to use as much of the kit as possible, so I'm going to cut strips that I'm going to use to attach the tag. You could do this also with washi tape. I've seen a lot of people do it with washi tape, but I want to rather use the kit. I'm cutting a strip roughly about 1 centimeter wide. You can cut it thicker or thinner if you want. I just think if it's too thin, it'll be more difficult to work with. I'm going to trim this to size first before I glue it. After I've applied my glue, I'm going to attach it to the one side of the card about halfway down the strip, and then I'm going to stick that into the actual fold of my folder and press that down really well. I'm going to do the same on the other side of the tag. This will secure it really well. I'm now going to prepare a few more tags for the Vellum Pockets. I'm going to use all 4 of these from the kit. I'm going to put them onto a cardstock. I've printed my kit onto normal copy paper, so it's quite thin and the tags will be a little bit flimsy. So I'm going to stick them onto a cardstock, and usually the cardstock I stick them onto is a coordinating color or something that matches. So when you turn the tag over, it matches your theme. I'm going to punch a hole in 2 of the tags. I want to add some threads or some kind of a ribbon, and then I'm rounding the corners and distressing the edges. Now let's see where these are going to go. Using the same fabric that I'm using for the closure, I'm putting a piece at the top of the one tag and machine stitching that down. I'm leaving this white. For the other tag, I'm going to use these threads. These are from Taperlogy. This tag does not fit into that small pocket. It's slightly too large, so I'm going to attach it in a different way. Using the same method of attaching this like I did the previous tag, I'm going to use some strips, but I'm not going to let this one open from left to right. It's going to open from top to bottom. So this adds some interest to the folder and a secret journaling spot just behind the tag. I'm going to use this for the little pocket because I can trim this down quite slim to fit in that small pocket. And this too I'm going to stick onto some cardstock to make it a bit more sturdy. I love the bright colors of the roses. It creates a really nice contrast with the rest of the colors. That fits perfectly in the pocket. I have this piece of ephemera, I don't know what it is, lying around on my desk. It's just a printed piece of paper. It looks like an advertisement in like a vintage style. So I'm going to fold that in half and pop it in the pocket too. Adding a paper clip to keep the tag in place. This photo of the woman, I want to keep it as if it is a photo. I'm going to back it up on some cardstock to make it more sturdy. And then I'm going to place it in the folder. I'm not going to attach it in any way. It's just going to be in the folder as if somebody is keeping it as a memory. It is going to stick up a little bit from the top and the bottom, but I do like that. I don't like everything flush. I like it to spill out of the book or folder. This is a front page of an old book that I found in a vintage market. It's got handwritten notes on, and I really love the look of it. So I'm going to attach it in as well without any way of holding it in place. It's just going to be placed in the folder as if somebody is keeping that as a memory or a note. I'm going to punch out a circle using my circle punch, and I'm going to put this as part of the decoration on the cover. I'm also definitely going to use the butterfly. I'm going to back this up on cardstock too because I'm going to fussy cut this out and actually hang the butterfly off a little jump ring, sort of like a charm. A piece of lace and a tassel. I'm going to stick a piece of lace at the bottom of my vellum pocket, just in the center section. I'm using a clear craft glue for this. While that's drying, I'm going to work on my little charms. I'm thinking of just a little cluster of elements that are going to hang off a light bulb safety pin. I like to incorporate elements throughout my project. So I've put lace on the Vellum Pockets. I'm going to add a piece of lace on my little dangly cluster. I think this is a good way to tie in elements in your projects. I'd love the butterfly to hang on her own because I think she's quite a bit of a focal point and I love her colors. I'm going to add a jump ring through the hole I punched, and then I'm going to attach it to a paper clip that I'm going to put on the front small pocket. My ribbon is ready. I'm going to feed that through the eyelet, and it's going to be a wraparound closure. No special closure needed, just tuck the end in. I've added a binder clip which will move around a little bit. This is just for aesthetic purposes, and then I'm going to attach my embellishment safety pin. I want to tuck something else in, something in the back between the ribbon and the back of the folder. This will be like a journal card. I'm using a piece of the kit and attaching this again to a piece of cardstock. I'm not going to give this a tag shape. It'll just be a rectangular shape with rounded corners. I'm loving adding quotes to my work lately. I want to add two to this project. The first one will be behind this tag. I'm going to handwrite it with a black fine liner pen. It reads, "For your peace of mind, don't try and understand everything." I want to add a little bit more detail to the tag, so I'm going to do some stenciling with texture paste. I have this lovely stencil which has like a flourish design, which I think suits the boho theme well. Just a small amount to add a little bit of interest. My next quote will be on the freestanding tag. This one reads, "Some people will never like you because your spirit irritates their demons." And for continuity, I'm going to add some more stenciling on the cover in a small section. Once it's nice and dry, we're going to add all our elements back inside. We're going to close it off, tuck in our end, and then put our journaling card in the back section. At this point, I thought I was done, but after leaving it overnight, I thought it needed a little bit more boho. So I added a few dangly beads, including an evil eye charm. I brought some sequins too that I thought I would attach. I wasn't quite sure yet. I feel that sequins add quite a lot to a boho theme, but I couldn't find a good place to use a sequin, so I didn't use them. Here I'm attaching my little dangly beads with jump rings onto my binder clip at the top and then onto my safety pin. Again, for continuity, I'm going to add a small piece of lace at the bottom right-hand corner of the cover. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it and were inspired to create your own folder. All details of this project will be in the description box below with links. I would love if you subscribed to my channel, and when you do, hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Happy crafting, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.